Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon if you're watching it from Europe. Hi, my name is Vivian Acquah and I'm the Workplace Wellness Advocate. Before we start with the usual program of the show, today in the Netherlands, it's Remembrance Day. So at 8 p.m. Central European time, I have to be silent for about 2 minutes so that we can remember those who we lost and those who fought for the freedom during World War II. So at 8 p.m., know that we'll be silent to remember those we lost and those who fought during World War II. So welcome to Let's Humanize the Workplace. And today I have a special guest from the States. I met her through another lady from LinkedIn. And I was just like, okay, why is it so that I don't know about the memo? And after that, I began to follow her on Twitter, follow her on LinkedIn, the usual social media network, so that you can reach out and ask if I could do the interview with her. And she's a very busy woman. And I'm glad that she's a very busy woman, because the topic that she's going to discuss tonight and the topic that we are going to talk about tonight is so important. It's a topic about women of color claiming their own seats. And I'm going to introduce Minda. I think it's time to introduce Minda. But before I am going to introduce Minda, there's one thing that I haven't done. And normally I share my screen. And also want to say, share the love. Especially now, if you know a woman of color who is looking for a new job or wants to get a promotion, or you're just thinking like, okay, I'm a woman of color, or I know a woman of color who might need this valuable information, tag her or share this with her, because this is a must-watch episode where you can learn so much from this lady. So I'm looking forward to interview her. And with no further ado, I'm going to bring her up in this conversation. So Minda Harts, she is the CEO of the Memo, a career development platform for women of color. She is the best-selling author of The Memo, What Women of Color Need to Know Now to Secure a Seat at the Table. And definitely now, in these couple of weeks, I've seen more of Minda than before. And I'm so proud of her. She's also an assistant professor at NYU Wagner, and she has been featured at MSNBC, Morning Joe, and Fast Company. And today we'll be discussing Women of Color, Secure Your Seat at the Table. Welcome, Minda.
Thank you, Vivian, for having me.
Are you looking forward to this?
I've been waiting. I'm excited to be able to. I can't leave my house in the States, so you brought me to you've taken me on a virtual flight, so I appreciate it.
Have you been to Amsterdam before, or in
no, never.
Okay, then this is my promise to you. Once all this is done, once you have the time to fly over to Amsterdam, say hello to your friend Vivian, and I'll promise to at least show you something of Amsterdam to make you more proud of being in Amsterdam. How's about that?
I'm holding you to it.
Okay, good, good. So the first question that I want to ask is, what is your connection with humanizing the workplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love that you ask it. For me, humanizing the workplace and the connection is for others to see women of color, Black women, as humans inside the workplace. And that's really important for me, because if we're talking about the future of work, then you have to humanize everyone who is in the workplace. And that requires those who have been underrepresented at these tables.
Okay, this last sentence went too fast. So I'm giving you another chance to just retouch, just say it again, because I think people in the back didn't hear it. So I'm going to ask you to say it again.
One more time for those in the back, a little closer to the screen. But humanizing the workplace is really about seeing everyone as human, and showing empathy for even people who don't look like you. And so my connection to humanizing the workplace is making sure that women of color, Black women, are seen as humans with dignity inside of the workplace so we can advance.
I love it, especially the dignity part. Yeah. I felt like you're talking to me, you're talking to every person, every woman of color should feel that. And I hope that you're feeling that. And know that during this episode, if you have anything to ask Minda, or if you want to share something, share that on the different channels, and I'll do my best to include them. So know that as well. And you have written a book, The Memo, which is maybe an anthem for a lot of women at the moment right now. But what's your why for writing this book?
Yeah, so prior to starting out on my own, being an entrepreneur, I worked in corporate and nonprofit for 15 years, and I was always the only one, right? The only Black woman.
I know. Yeah.
Many of us know what that feels like, and unfortunately. And at one point, Vivian, I just said, you know what am I doing to make the workplace better than I found it? Am I just going to keep being the lonely only, or am I going to do something that's going to create change so that the next woman of color doesn't have to be by herself, or at least we make it better when she arrives, right? So she won't be micro or macroaggressed by the same things that we are, or that those who came before us had to shed some of the same like workplace tears, right? And so for me, I had to write a book where we are the center, we meaning women of color, are the center of the career narrative, because most books tend to have sweeping generalizations of women, but they're not always talking or including all women, that intersectionality lens. And so for me, it was important to write the memo so that people can get it. They can get it.
I totally understand that. And also being one of the only Black women in the workplace, there is a huge pressure on us, right? Because when we fail, it seems like we're failing on behalf of the whole Black society, or we're failing on the whole community of women of color. Can you shed something about that? So why are we carrying that weight on our shoulders?
Yeah, because the reality is, Vivian, before we got there, before we were the only, there were none, right? Mm-hmm. So there wasn't full representation. And so when you get entered into this room by yourself, you feel like you have to represent for the whole race, which is a lot of pressure that should not be placed on us. We should, again, back to humanizing, right? Mm-hmm. If someone makes a mistake, then that should be on them, their character, their work ethic, not on this whole race of people. But we put so much on our backs to say, well, if I'm here, then I have to make it work so that they'll allow another one in. But that same rule is not the same for others, right? For the majority of the workplace. If, for example, if Tom messes up, Tom doesn't mess up for the whole generation of, Caucasian people, Yeah,
I understand.
Along the line, we get that. And so, Minda messed up, so we can't let another one in the room, right? And so I know it may sound very harsh when you say it out loud, but these are the things that are happening in the rooms, whether we want to talk about them or not.
I can only say, sorry, I won't apologize, because I'll be holding this card from time to time just to let you know what you're doing. So see this card as a preaching card.
It's a fan. Yes. Fan. I see it.
So what can managers learn from the memo? What is it that you want them to learn and do better?
Yeah.
From now on.
From here on out. So,
from now on, after this, no mistakes anymore.
For me, so the memo is important for twofold. It's important that women of color are able to read about what it's like to be them inside of the workplace, just have some validation that we're not making up some of these situations. But on the flip side, it's very important for managers to read about the experiences of women of color so that you understand how to manage diverse talent. Right. So a lot of the statistics show that women of color tend to hit a ceiling when it comes to managerial roles or C-suite roles of the sorts. And so if we have managers who are invested in talent, diverse talent, then I think we could see these numbers increase. And I want to let you know, one of the stats from my book, when I interviewed women of color, those women who identify as women of color, over 70% of them said that they felt like their managers were not invested in their success. That's a very huge number. So I feel like there's some managers who need to understand how to manage diverse talent, how to build relationships, how to have important conversations. And I think sometimes in the workplace, we don't want to talk about race. And I'm a Black woman. We have to talk about race at work.
Yes, true. You're mentioning investing in your team member. So what kind of an investment can a manager do? Is that maybe create a funding for a person to go to training, or maybe mentor it? Can you maybe share some, maybe 4 or 5 examples of ways that managers can invest in their people?
Yes. You know, I want to also say that I don't feel like there's a manager who's saying, you know what, I'm going to intentionally exclude this Black woman or brown woman who's on my team. I don't think that it's that blatant. But what I do think is sometimes we tend to gravitate toward people who look like us, or we feel like we can't approach other people who look different than us. And I think that for starters, I think we have to understand that getting to know the people on our team, right? Because not everybody has the same needs. Not everybody has the same skill set. Not everybody has the same career desires. And I think when we're invested in every part of our team, every person has a strength. And so I think that there's a lot of women of color that are going to their career graves having not even used.
Career graves? Woman.
Is it too early to
career graves? No, just speak on it. Educate the people. What do you meaning with career graves?
Yeah. So let's say you have, so currently, at least in the States, 4% of women of color are in the executive roles in corporate America. You think about how many women of color are leaving, retiring, not even having the opportunity, the access to be a manager, the access to get to the C-suite. And so many of us have all of this education, all of this schooling and coaching and mentorship, and we don't even get the opportunity to thrive in our full capacity. And so I'm saying, how much of your workforce do you want to use as managers, as leaders, right? Because you've allowed all of these women of color to leave, and you didn't even tap into their unique brilliance, even half of it. And we're doing our talent a disservice. And so I think back to your part of investment is getting to know the people on your team, everybody equally, right? Finding out their strengths and being invested. So you're on the team. Where do you see yourself in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? Let's get a career plan because, going. But if managers aren't invested in this way, or they're not reading books like the Memo to understand what it's like for a Black woman to come in on a day when police brutality has happened, right, to someone. There's a lot of mental gymnastics, or why it's not okay to say, I don't see race, right?
Yes.
So language matters. So there's so many things, but I think that I'm optimistic, Vivian, about the future. And I think if more people get the memo, if we continue to have conversations and platforms like yours, then we can broaden our scope.
Definitely. And I also feel like to add some more juice to what you said, right? Regarding a career plan or helping your team member with the career plan, also ask the question, how can I help you? And if I can't help you, I might know somebody from my network who might help you. Make that available for your people, because I feel like we ask the question, where do you see yourself? And we have this yearly review, but we never ask the question, how can I help you excel? How can I help you achieve your ambitions?
Because there's managers that, I understand that at least in even COVID-19, you're just trying to get through the day, right? You're trying to make sure all the cylinders are running, but talent development doesn't stop because we're in this virtual environment. Talent development actually starts now. The real talent development starts now.
I feel like I'm sitting in church right now with all the things that you're praying, and I'm just like going, preach. I want to hit a preach button.
I might get out of my minutes. I'm trying to.
You can go. Just go. Just go. Just go. We have 1 minute, so let's stop now for about a few minutes, and then we continue the conversation. Because it's the Remembrance Day in the Netherlands. So just a few minutes, folks. Okay. We just remembered those who lost their lives during World War II, and also those who helped Europe, helped the Netherlands with the war during World War II. And I want to continue with the questioning, with the interview with Minda. So, why is it important for women of color to secure their seat at the table, even now, even during the COVID lockdown?
Well, listen, it's even more imperative that we do that. And I think, so we talked about what managers can do. And I really love this question because this is, what is under our control, right? So one of the things that I want to encourage people to do is that you still can secure your seat from the home, if that's where you're working from, that your career development doesn't stop now. COVID-19 might not have been on your goals list or your vision board, but
no, it hasn't.
You still have those same goals are still important. And so make sure that you're articulating your value and quantifying your worth, right, to those who need to hear it. So we can assume our managers know what we want, right? They don't, just because we're working hard, at the computer, on the Zoom calls or wherever, doesn't mean they know what we want. So these are the opportunities that we must take to schedule that time and let them know what you want going forward. And this is also another opportunity for you to see where the gaps are during the COVID-19, because the reality is there's going to be some new positions coming out of this, some new opportunities for you to lead. And so leverage this opportunity to get in where you fit in, as we say. And also, number two, don't shrink. If this is an opportunity for you to show your face on the screen, for you to chime in on certain topics, because people are making decisions for women that look like us, and we may not be in these virtual rooms. So we have to advocate every chance we get, because I do feel that what we do today will be a direct correlation to when we come out of COVID into this. The future is now, right? So where do we want to be? Where do we want to be in this leadership pool? And so find those roles. And I want to say, when I still work from home, but in my former life, I worked from home, and my colleagues, I worked in New York, and my colleagues worked in California, and I still found ways to stay relevant. I never just because I was 3 hours ahead and on a different coast, I didn't stop pushing for myself and advocating for myself. But that requires us to speak up and raise our hand for those opportunities.
Yeah, I can totally agree with you. And also that I dare women to speak up now, especially now. I mean, for myself, it took the time. I had to take some time to get used to what I'm doing. And even for tonight, I'm still nervous, but luckily I'm talking to a lady who I admire, but also a lady that I wish I had her book once when I started 20 years ago. So just know I'm turning 40 this year. So just to be clear. But it's a book that is relevant for all ages during your personal career or your professional development, right?
Yep, absolutely. I wrote the book that I wanted to read, right? That I wish that I had, because you do get lonely. It's isolating, and sometimes you forget what you bring to the table. And we need a coach, and we need a cheerleader sometimes, right?
Yeah,
and I feel like the Memo can serve in different ways.
True. It's so important to find your group of people that know your value, know your worth. And but before you do that, find out about your own worth, find out about your own value, because sometimes you can find yourself in certain situations. And this is me talking from a personal perspective, where somebody who was acting like a superior but wasn't my superior was acting out and sharing that my work, that I was doing wasn't professional enough, wasn't relevant enough. But the funny thing is, my manager didn't have the same thought. He managed to tell me that he was thinking of me of being professional. And it's so weird that somebody can get into your mind, can get into your ear and share that with you as a way of giving you some constructive feedback, which is hurtful feedback. So know your value and know what you bring to the table before you let somebody's words become your own.
That's a word. If I had that awesome sign, I'd put it up right now. That's part of it, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes we do start to question ourselves because we've forgotten what our worth is, right? Because we've been overlooked for the promotion. We didn't get the raise that we were supposed to have. The carrot was dangled in front of us and we never got what we were supposed to get. And I'll say, even in during COVID-19, this is an opportunity for us to figure out what we want next, right?
I think a lot of people are doing that at the moment. A lot of people are investigating, like, okay, if my company is treating people like this or is treating me like this, is this a company where I want to work for? And even though people are not leaving now because of the financial security that they're having, they are planting a seed and they are nurturing it. And maybe they are not leaving now, but know that within 2 years, you will have a talent leakage. And also know that it takes, depending on which industry or depending on which category people are working for, right? It will take at least 1 year to find a replacement, to get that person up to a certain speed. Will also take another 2 years. So that means that you have lost almost 2 years bringing, losing valuable talent. So know what you have in house. Please investigate what you have in house and start validating people as they are, because you don't know what you got until it's gone.
And that is a word, because I think that's part of it. Oftentimes companies talk about, oh, we need to find more women of color to hire. But what about the women that of color or underrepresented groups that are in your company today, right? The ones who have been loyal, who've been, invest in retaining and advancing them. And that's what I want to see more of.
Yeah, definitely. So what can women of color do for themselves? So not wait upon somebody else, giving you that promotion after 10 years while you have been waiting for it for 10 years. What can you do to break that glass ceiling?
Yeah, I think right now we have an opportunity to think about our future, right? So if you say right now, I'm in X role, but I see myself in a, 2 to 3 years being in this other role, what are some of those skills that you need in your toolkit right now to make sure that you're ready? So if you say that I want to be in management, but you're afraid of public speaking, now is the time to invest in your public speaking so that you're ready when you get that seat at the table, that you're not holding space, that you hit the ground running. And so I think right now in order to break the glass ceiling, I think we're doing a lot of the things that we can do. It also requires us to find these equitable work environments. But again, part of the equation that we can solve is what we're doing to invest in ourselves and making sure that we're advocating. And I think that in building our strategic alliances right now. Now, you mentioned it previously. Success is not a solo sport. As much as many of us want to say that we can be self-made and get up the ladder, it's going to require other people speaking our names when we're not in the room, going to bat for us when someone tries to say that we're not professional. They know us and say, no, Vivian, she is. I've worked with her. But nobody's going to vouch for us if they don't get to know us, right? Or if we don't let people in, if we don't put ourselves out there. So I think part of breaking this glass ceiling is making ourselves accessible and being in these rooms and speaking up. And right now, I wholeheartedly believe that we have an opportunity to really position ourselves during COVID-19. And I hate to say it, I know it's a pandemic, but I do think that our leadership can really shine bright during this dark time.
This whole sentence, you're giving me goosebumps all over. I'm just like, okay, where do you have a minister somewhere where I can register? Because know that she has a podcast. So if you want to listen to more of her, those preacher things that she's dropping, listen to her podcast as well and follow her, please. So what can women, because we need role models. I know that the only role model that I had back in the day was Oprah, and everybody has Oprah, and it was Janet Jackson. Everybody has Janet Jackson. And then internet came. Then I could find more role models. And now, especially with social media, I see so many beautiful women of color. I found you in social media. And the youth nowadays have so many role models, but yet again, they don't see themselves in the companies, or they don't see the women of color in certain positions. So where can we find these women, and how can we all unite and have a masterclass session or have something? Because it feels like, to me, even having Michelle Obama coming here last year, with her becoming, I was just like, okay, but where are the other women? There are more leading women than Michelle Obama or Oprah or maybe Gabrielle Union. We need more of the, I might say the normal leading woman. So where can we find them? Is there a Google search page that we need to start or somewhere? Yeah, we do need them.
We do need them. Well, I would say that the lovely thing is how we found each other, right? LinkedIn, social media. Growing up, I had the same problem as you, right? It was not a problem, but you could only.
It is a problem. No, it is.
To like Oprah, and there's so many of us everyday women working the 9 to 5, right? With the family that you may have more in common with in some ways and more access to. And I think that we have to redefine what role model looks like, right? Yes, it'd be great if Oprah could sit down with each of us and pour into us. But the reality is there's another woman who's doing phenomenal things that you can find and you can reach out. But a part of this, again, Vivian, is putting ourselves out there, right? We have to go after it. The internet doesn't exclude us from any type of role model. I have so many mentors online that don't even know I exist because I follow the things that they're saying online. I take what I can and I apply it to my life. And the internet allows us to build our network even across countries, across borders. And so you got to seek it out, though. And I think the more that we have shows like yours, we can amplify each other's voices. So when you find someone, don't hoard her, put her out into the atmosphere so we all can have access.
That's a good one. Don't hoard her. Share the love. Okay, so who do you want to share at the moment? Who's your top 3 when it comes to women of color in a role model position, and why?
Of course, I watch your live, so you're a role model to me. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
I would also say, I hate to give names out only because I find there's so many women that I get inspiration from when I'm at the grocery store, right? The way that people interact. If I'm at the grocery store and I see a woman of color managing or doing something, and the way that she responds, right? With empathy, leading with curiosity. Like, I love being able to see that. And leadership happens when you're at the drive-through of McDonald's or you're at the laundromat. I see it in so many ways. And when I was younger, I used to think that role models could only be the Oprahs, right? Or the Michelle Obamas. But now there's so many shapes, forms, and fashions. And so I just want to impress upon people that we all can be role models. We all have a sphere of influence, and it's what are we doing to make sure that we're sharing that information. And so let's all continue to be role models for each other, and use our integrity and our empathy to pass on to the next generation. So I hate that not to give you any, but if you go to my Twitter page, I follow a lot of dynamic role women.
I was just about to say, if you follow Minda on Twitter, she has some kinds during the week. I don't follow her all the time, but I do, make an effort to follow some of the Twitters, the posts that she's sharing, and even highlighting, sharing a post. How can I help you? What are you doing this week to support you? It's such a simple question, but it brings so much power. It opens a network within a network, and I'm seeing new women. I'm seeing more people, and it's just like, okay, it feels to me, this lockdown, it feels like a whole new world. A whole new world has opened up, and I'm connecting with people that I might not have connected before, or might not easily connected with before. So I am, in a way, that's the positive thing that I get out of COVID, is the way that we can connect with each other in a more human way. So thank you. And follow her again on Twitter. Follow her on Twitter. So I have to ask this question, and I know it's been a while, but when I saw you, or when I got to see the memo, I had to ask this question. And it has to do with what happened with Gabrielle Union, with the America Got Talent situation. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's Gabrielle Union. Her situation is our situation. When I see celebrities, or I see executives being singled out, disrespected, the dignity trying to be taken away, I put myself in the same shoes, because I know what it's like, right? I know what it's like to be Gabrielle Union. You probably know, in the sense of being one of the only ones at the table and not having someone advocate for you, right?
Yeah.
And so what really struck me is when some of her colleagues said, oh, well, that never happened to me, and that was the part of it that really drove me crazy, because
you're belittling so much. You're making the problem that she's facing so much smaller, like it doesn't exist. You're the only one. And that's why you mentioned it, like you mentioned it in the previous question before, like it doesn't seem like you're fabricating the story because you are the only one who is experiencing it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's the thing. It's like, you say you want me to bring my authentic self to work.
Mm-hmm.
You say that you want me to have a voice,
Yeah.
but the moment that I say that this is a problem,
Yeah.
then I'm blowing it out of proportion, right? Or because it didn't happen to me, to you, then it didn't happen at all. And I think that as allies, as good colleagues, it's important to say, acknowledge that, oh, perhaps that did happen to her. That wasn't my experience, but we should listen, right, to what Minda's saying and see if we can get down to the bottom of this. But I think it's really shameful that you're already dealing with some inequalities, and then to layer on that your voice and silence it, right? And I think that if we want to have a better work environment, our allies are going to have to step up when it counts, right?
True.
And even watching Terry Crews,
Oh,
colleagues, was
he lost my respect.
Yeah,
when he
I
did
was
that.
really disappointed because, again, you don't have to say you were there to see it, but you don't have to diminish your colleagues' experience, right? And I think that we can be better colleagues for one another, and we just have to show up. How do we make the workplace better? Humanizing it, right? Humanizing. Had Gabrielle Union experience just a little human empathy from her colleagues at work, I think that she may still be at that table right now, but unfortunately, Vivian, who had to leave? She had to leave, right? And we find ourselves in those situations so much because there's no accountability at the top.
And the thing I also wanted to share is she didn't speak on it. She has never spoken on it, on this topic. The reason why it came out is her husband said something, shared a tweet about, why is my woman being fired for something that she brought new audience, she brought her network, people were applauding for her. She was even advocating for those who couldn't advocate, or those who couldn't speak up. And I can sympathize with her. It touched so many levels, so many buttons, and still she kept respectful towards her former employee, because she doesn't want to burn bridges. And I understand, but what they did to her was dehumanizing. It was.
Yeah, it was. You know, I just want to add to that is a couple months ago, I had the pleasure of meeting her. We both spoke at the same company, and she had mentioned that she wasn't talking about this particular example, but in different situations she's been in, and how some of her colleagues would get so upset about, the coffee not being there anymore, the coffee ran out, or the tea, no more tea packets. But when something as insidious as like racism or racism, you can't step up, right? You'll go all the way up to the CEO to tell him that there's no more tea left, but you won't stand up on matters that involve human empathy. And so I do think that, that really struck me as we do have to show up for each other in a much better way. And again, I love that your show is called Let's Humanize the Workplace, because I think that's what it all boils down to, is humanizing each other's experiences.
True. Before I go to the last question, because I don't want it to be over just right now, but I do want to see if there are people on LinkedIn, because I think I have been ignoring my LinkedIn people, and I see some comments here. So I'm just going to have a look at the LinkedIn. If there is something to share something, please share something that you want to speak on, so that in the meantime I can look at the comments. Yeah.
The main thing I just want to say is that one of my favorite writers is the late Audre Lorde, and she says, beware of feeling like you're not good enough to deserve it. And so as you're advocating for yourself, as you're finding the right table or creating your own, know that you've worked too hard to lean out now. And, we have to do what we have to do to make sure that we create an environment in which we can thrive and not just survive, because we've worked too hard to get here, and again, have to keep fighting for a seat. I believe there is a seat waiting for us, and sometimes it will require us to leave where we are. But I hope that there are some people in leadership and in management that take a different look and look at the workforce and say, how can we get the most out of everyone? And during this time period, managers get to make it better than we left it weeks ago.
Repeat that for those in the back, because
yes.
I didn't
in the way
that
back
people,
in the future,
yeah. Repeat that. Yeah.
Make decisions that will make the workplace better than we left it several weeks ago.
Yes, love it, love it, love it. So, first of all, you have a fan, 𝗪cie𝗂𝗿𝗄𝗧. He's sharing the memo is awesome. He's also sharing Gabrielle Union was thrown under the bus by her friend Terry Crews. His words, not mine, but I do feel like that as well. And Minda bringing the fire again with her empire state of mind. Is that you? Do you recognize that?
Well,
okay.
Yes. I mean, we have to. If we don't level up into our thinking, a lot of this is really, the growth mindset, and we got to keep that empire state of mind.
I haven't shared the story of the growth mindset, right? So one of the things that I normally do during my show when people touch on the growth mindset is my son is 6 right now, but he was 4 when I and my partner were talking about something and he told us that's a fixed mindset. And I was just like, okay, what happened here? What did you do? Apparently at his school, his teacher, he is learning on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, what it is, growth mindset, and what is a fixed mindset. With a growth mindset, you are allowed to stretch and grow your brain and make mistakes as long as you learn from it. With a fixed mindset, you do what a lot of leaders do. They block you, they don't nurture you, and you might leave. So for those of you who want to know what the growth mindset is, think about this example and investigate, or even, read the book Carol Dweck, Growth Mindset. It's not hard. Make yourself available for this, because this is the time that you have to activate. I mean, COVID is really activating our growth mindset at the moment, so please do.
Yeah.
And 𝗬cie𝗹𝗄𝗿 is also sharing. Great, Vivian. Great, Minda. So thank you all for commenting. And I also see another comment here popping up. Lillian Cardoso is sharing. Love this. We love you. We love Minda. No, I love Minda.
Thank you.
So I hate to say it's the last question. So for those of you, if you want to ask, or if you want me to ask Minda something, just drop it now. And in the meantime, I'll ask my question. What is your wish for 2025 when it comes to humanizing the workplace and women of color in the workplace?
Yeah, it's not that far away, right?
Yeah.
For me, I hope and pray that in 2025 that we will see more diverse tables, that we will see women of color in leadership roles, we will see more CEO roles, presidents, etc. And so I think that my wish is that those with the most privilege share their privilege. So we have an equitable workforce. But the other part is that I hope that we'll see more women of color leaving environments that don't serve them any longer, and they end up where they need to be.
I believe so. That's so true, that we need to stand up and say something about this, especially now that you can look the reviews on Indeed, on Glassdoor, and also know that I think it's important also to maybe, state how diverse your company is. Not only use the images, or use the images from your event because one Black person or one woman of color, a few women of color attended it, so that you can use that to lure and attract talent. And then once they come in, it feels like a trap for them. But be genuine, be genuine and really showcase what you're doing for diversity, what you're doing for women of color, and how you feel like you are different. How is your company different? Because now it's the window dressing. I'm not falling for it anymore, and people are starting to see that as well. So now is the time to stand up and to raise your voice and do something about it. So I totally agree. I totally agree. There's also Lions fan is also saying hi. So thank you. And let me see at LinkedIn. Is there something that I haven't asked you that you want to include?
Oh, all of your questions have been, so great. And, I really just I hope that people who don't identify as women of color, that they will read the memo, because I feel like you said, there's something for everyone. And I think the more that we humanize the workplace is understanding the people we work alongside of and some of their experiences. And I can't speak for every woman of color, but there's some common themes.
We have a lot of similarities. Yes. There are a lot of similarities. Yeah.
So this is a great view, and it really opens up the conversation to have critical conversations and practice courageous listening, because for someone who may not have tapped into advocating for themselves, they may not tell you that what you said to them last Wednesday affected them in this way, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if you read this, you can start to kind of get some deeper emotional intelligence to understand how certain things land on people who don't look like you.
True. I couldn't have said it better. You said it well. And I also want to say something. 𝗬cie𝗹𝗍𝗿 is saying, the first time I'm watching your platform, and thank you. And also, Minda, you have done an excellent job. I am not saying goodbye to you. I think that I'm going to invite you in a couple of months' time, if I can, ask your team to make the date available, because we need to look back. Hopefully we can look back at that time, within a few months' time, look back and see what you have done, how the world has changed, from the workplace has changed from now. And also we have to remind people, because sometimes you have to see things 7 times before it's engraved into their brain. So I'm going to bring you back.
Well, thank you. And thank you.
If you allow me, though.
Yes, we're friends now. But thank you for your platform to host these kind of conversations, because they're so important. So thank you again.
Thank you. So please stay on. I'm going to just end off, and I want to chat afterwards how how things went. So for those of you who don't know Minda, she's a must watch, and you can follow her on practically, I think, every platform. But I love your Twitter feed, and I love the way how you engage people, but also activate others to level up. And she has a podcast. She's doing a lot, so know that. And the event planners, if you have a virtual event or a normal event, know that you have these 2 sisters who are speaking on diversity, who are humanizing the workplace, and you know where to find us now. That's it. Thank you, Minda. I'll see you later. And I have a surprise. For you, because unfortunately my guest speaker for tomorrow canceled. And I almost wanted to cancel my live stream, but luckily, and this is a woman that I met through Minda's Twitter feed, I'm going to bring 𝗪cie up. And 𝗪cie is the author of The Career Rehab. This woman is, I think you will find a similarity with Minda, but again, another different energy. And she's going to speak on it. So if you want to reboost your career, or if you want to do something else, I do believe that the Memo and The Career Rehab, it's just like a joint venture that you have to read both those books. So you heard something about Minda. Tomorrow is 𝗪ci's turn. And put them aside, put them next to each other, because they are an added value, especially when you want to revamp your career or you're going for that promotion. So thank you for watching Let's Humanize the Workplace. My name is Vivian Acquah. And if you want to know more about me, just look at my LinkedIn profile or connect with me or follow me. And know that I'm doing a weekly live show on Tuesday, but sometimes on other days. But know that I'm doing an English weekly live show in English for Let's Humanize the Workplace. And it was a pleasure doing this interview. So thank you, and until next time. Bye.